Thank you for being here. I'm going to ask if we stand, and we'll have an invocation, and the color guard will present, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. May we bow in an attitude of prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we say thank you for the opportunity to arise and awaken this beautiful day in Washington County. Lord, lead, guide, and direct us. May we honor and please you in all that's said and done today. May we serve the citizens of this community and this county well. Bless us, direct us, and guide us, I pray in thy name. Amen. Color guard.
Present arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I go. Order. Arms. Order. March. Lead. 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 Lead.
Did they not have that part airing? I don't know. Should be.
Okay. Thank you, color guard. With that, we go on air. With that, I'd like to call our May 16th meeting to order. And we do have minutes for approval from both April 25th and April 27th. Is that right?
Motion to approve minutes for April 25th and April 27th. Can we do them both together, I think?
Second.
Okay, with that, we have a motion and second to approve both sets of minutes. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, 5-0. Thank you. We'll move right into commissioners' comments and reports. And Mr. Wagner, you want to go first?
Good morning. Welcome all of our guests. Thank you, Honor Guard, as always. Want to congratulate all the mothers from this past weekend, and hope you had a wonderful day. Last night, Commissioner Klein and I attended Lions Club 74th Charter Night at Clear Spring Legion. Very nice ceremony, and honor the Lions up there and what they do for the community with food banks. And it was amazing how many deliveries they made with food bank, how many groceries they handed out over the years, and some of the longevity of the members. I think one of them was 47 years. Could be wrong. I was during National Correction Officers Week. I went out and thought I'd tour the detention center. Sheriff Albert, thank you for that. I'll tell you, it's something to, if you have never been in there, it's a place to get out of quick. I feel bad for employees in there.
The rumor they didn't want to release you?
Yeah. Well, they initiated me in Pod D, which is the worst pod out there, and that was too vivid for me to describe. But with that being said, our employees out there, the officers in the detention center do a wonderful job. It looked like a well-oiled machine. They were very welcoming to me, and I think it would do all the commissioners, and maybe we could take a tour of it. I think sooner than later, in a long-range plan, we're going to have to really address the inside of that. You ever see the movies with real nice correctionals? And I'm more talking about our employees. And that was like walking in Alcatraz, the movie Alcatraz. So to me, that's what it looked like. Maybe y'all get a different opinion, but that's what it looked like to me. But thank you, Sheriff, for that. That's all I have.
Mr. Kiefer?
Nothing today from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Harvey?
Well, thank you, President Barr. Today we're going to be having a key decision on the budget, and any budget process is full of tough decisions. I think this year is particularly tough. It's my first time through, and it would always be tough even if we had not had the tax cut last year, because you always have to make decisions about priorities. But I think it's particularly tough and unfortunate that we didn't have an additional $13 million this year to incorporate into our budget process. Year over year, we have fewer dollars to spend based upon inflation. Even though tax revenues are up a little bit, they're not keeping up with the pace of inflation, so we've had to make tough decisions across the board. Some people think about an end-of-year amount of money that might be an overage. And I would say that when we invested in a $15 million bond, borrowed $15 million, whatever excess we might have at the end of the year, we actually already spent on what is in fact current expenses for smaller capital expenditures. You know, any tax increase would not really impact people that are poor, as some allege. Families making $60,000 a year or less wouldn't pay anything because of the Maryland progressive tax system. But the tax cut does disproportionately hit poor people because it impacts our ability to provide the services needed, whether it's for a county commuter or for schools, where we fund behavioral specialists or English as a second language or other interventions that are required in today's society. The poor and low to moderate income people disproportionately use parks and recreation that are funded by the county over other people. Social services that we fund, the ability to fund nonprofits, Meals on Wheels, and other school programs are disproportionately affected when we constrain our income flow in the way that we have without impacting people that are of moderate or lower means. And it means we don't have money to set aside for the investments that are absolutely critical to keep this county going in the right direction. Whether it's the jail that Randy visited that has real requirements to modernize, or a new jail, the need for a new courthouse or a massive renovation of that, a new library for Williamsport, school construction costs, putting the funding in line for Kerwin and the $10 million a year budget lines that are going to be coming very soon with that, or for funding modernization of EMS and fire, or roads and bridges. I could go on and on with the list forever. It's always tough making these decisions, but when we artificially impose restraints that are on the income flow that are going to fund required things for our community, not nice to have. No one can argue about the things I mentioned here as being necessary for our citizens. So we're going to have to bite the bullet at some time about addressing revenue generation. Thank you.
Commissioner Klein?
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank our deputies in the Honor Guard and all law enforcement to let them know that we appreciate the day-and-day sacrifices they do for our citizens. So again, thank you to all our law enforcement. I also attended the 74th charter for the Clear Spring Lions. They had a recreation of the original charter program from 74 years ago. And in attendance last night was also the Williamsport Lions Club, who was there in attendance 74 years ago. So there was a lot of history and a lot of good people up there in the Clear Spring Lions Club for that celebration. Also, Sunday went over to their Museum of Fine Arts and attended and viewed the artwork for the Washington County Public Schools art exhibition for the elementary. And I think Mr. Wagner had a granddaughter with 2 entries there on display.
Yeah.
You didn't mention that.
Paramount School, yeah.
I try to go to that every year. I had a piece of artwork in that museum many years ago, too. I also attended the Eagle Scout ceremony of Nick Chickalo. His project was some benches for the Williamsport Park or areas, or the school, elementary school, so congratulations to Nick. I also attended the Farmers Market in Williamsport, their first event this year. Large turnout, 20-plus vendors, very successful initial display. And at the same time, Senator Mike McKay opened up his Williamsport office for residents in his district to have access to him there. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Good morning, everyone. Over the weekend, I did attend the Emeritus Hospital Foundation fundraiser at Big Cork Winery, a very nice event, and hats off to the Emeritus Foundation, and we're so blessed with the Emeritus Hospital in our community and all their outreach and what they do for the health and well-being of the citizens of this community and surrounding areas. I'd also like to, as the president of this board, to reach out here this morning, and I have no notes in front of me. I'm going to speak strictly from the heart and kind of pick up where my fellow Commissioner Harvey has left off. For the past 5 months, let me back up. This is not my first budget cycle. This is my 13th. And never before have I realized that during the past 5 months, the need in this community. I wholeheartedly believe, and I know their school board, school staff and superintendent is here this morning. I wholeheartedly believe that their request is forthright and the need is incredible. Coming out of the pandemic, the social issues, the mental health issues, the security issues that are in our schools, I, for one, would like to see additional funds to the school board. Our senior citizens, the mainstay of our community, the folks that have lived their life here, that have supported this community, and we do need to increase their support. There's many other programs in our community that have tremendous needs. Meanwhile, in previous board, we cut taxes with very minimal input to individuals, and yet we've more or less squandered away our disparity grant from the state of Maryland, and to the tune of between 10 and 13 million a year, and that's year after year after year. This community needs to be brave. We need to be progressive. There's so much good in this community that we need to be a little brave and step out, put the tax rate back where it should be. I know Derek talked about what it didn't impact. The impact is minimal. For someone making $100,000 a year, it's $150 a year. And I don't know of anybody in this community that wouldn't, for $150, want to see better and safer schools, a better senior center, well taken care of, and increased Meals on Wheels. Last week we heard that the city of Hagerstown, the water infrastructure, there was a need to operate almost 100-year-old valve, and it wouldn't function. Those are the kind of things that we need to be progressive, work together, collaborate with the city, and join forces and protect and supply the services of the citizens of this community. And so I reach out to my fellow commissioners. We need to quickly, sooner than later, address our potential with both taxes and, as we move forward here today and possibly next week at the latest, approve a budget that we certainly have creative ways to take care of the needs and supply the needs of this community. I know there's a lot more, there's a lot more I could say. I'll probably regret an hour from now, things I could have said without, because I failed to make notes. But I want everyone to understand that I do care. It comes from the heart. And this community needs to look out for itself and not rely on other communities or the state in particular. We need to be progressive. And we asked for something from our state delegation. We've carried the water bucket first and foremost. Thank you.
Commissioner Barr, I want to add some comments, and all due respect, this is the first I ever heard you mention any of this. You touted 13 budget cycles, plenty of experience. 5 months ago, you just said we should have been bringing this up. Now you wait till after our budget has gone to public hearing and now want to bring it to our attention. We all care. We all know this. But you were supposed to be the leader behind this, and you touted 13 budgets 5 months ago. You should have been working with us months ago. This is the first direct conversation I've had with this, and no disrespect, but to bring this up at this late a moment with our budget already a public hearing, now wanting us to come back and make changes when our CFO has made strong recommendations on where we're at financially, I don't know what your plan is to find this money in this budget cycle. So a week from now, what's different than what our CFO has already said? But I'm disappointed that we haven't had this discussion one-on-one amongst us to help these organizations. The need and want is many, and I think we all care. We all recognize that. And I was one of the ones with Commissioner Wagner that raised those taxes, and we mitigated with our team last year as working together as a team. Commissioner Kiefer, Commissioner Baker, Commissioner Burkett, we all worked together, and we did lower taxes trying to adjust the tax rate and still help people. And at the same time, return money back to people's pockets when it was desperate. Quote Mr. Burkett, $35 is a lot of money to some people. But in summary, this conversation should have happened months ago with us, not a week after the budget was presented. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other comments? Thank you. Staff comments. Legal?
Yes, one item requesting approval for the appointment of
This is beyond.
Alex Schiffler to the position of Chief of Surveys at a grade 15, step 1. The salary is $67,288. It is a budgeted position, and Mr. Schiffler comes recommended, having worked as a surveyor for over 15 years in various roles, including previously being the Chief of Survey for Washington County's Engineering Department, and he is a licensed surveyor by the state. So the request is for a vote to appoint Mr. Schiffler to the position as stated.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Anything
Thank you,
else?
Commissioners, that's it.
Okay. John?
The only thing I would mention is that next week we will have a regular meeting, and then we have an evening meeting in Hancock next Tuesday. That's all I have.
Okay. With that,
One last thing.
yes.
Mr. Downey is not here today because of a funeral for a family member, and we have Kendall sitting in his place.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kendall.
Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Downey family, passing of their family member. With that, we'll move into citizens' participation.
Michelle has something for.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle.
I'll have staff comments.
Sorry.
Michelle Gordon, Chief Financial Officer. On April the 26th, staff met with the rating agencies to review the overall financial condition of Washington County. In addition to budget and finance leadership, staff who attended this meeting were John Martoreno, the county administrator, and Jonathan Horowitz, the Director of Business and Economic Development, as well as our financial advisors. I'd like to extend a special thank you to Jonathan for his assistance, as he did an excellent job answering the economic and business development questions that the Investor Services asked. This review is performed each year. It is required for the upcoming general obligation bond issuance, as well as affirmation of our GO outstanding debt. As part of this meeting, staff presents information to the rating agencies related to the prior year's financial overall performance of county operations. And that typically includes items presented as part of the state of the county. Economic indicators such as household wealth, unemployment rates, completed and upcoming business, as well as residential development, and visitor and tourism spending in the county. We also present information related to infrastructure and capital projects that are completed, ongoing, and upcoming. They also review projected financial picture for the current fiscal year, as well as the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. That detailed review includes a review of the assessable base, wage growth, and other revenue performances compared to historical trends. It includes a review of expenditure growth, and it's compared to historical trends, economic expansion, and inflation. A comparison of county tax rates to state and regional peers, as well as debt and performance ratios, and a review of the county's authority to increase taxes or raise revenue if needed, and that shows our financial flexibility. All three rating agencies assigned a AA+ rating for the 2023 GO bond issue and affirmed our AA+ rating for all GO outstanding debt. They also assigned a stable outlook for Washington County. Some of the important takeaways that the rating agencies pointed out include that the county has a growing tax base with continued development. We have excellent financial management and policies. We have stable financial performance and strong revenues. We have a manageable leverage and stable debt profile. They pointed out that we are budgeting for additional funding of the county's pension plans to improve our county funded status, which is currently at 68%. We have a high level of budgetary and financial flexibility to increase revenue via rate adjustments, to cut expenditures and use revenues to absorb any downward pressure that may occur in the future. For the county to receive upgraded ratings, the Investor Services would like to see a material increase in the overall economic outlook, and that would include resident wealth, expansion of the local economy, and continued improvement of the county's pension-funded ratios. The rating agencies also noted that downward ratings would occur if there was sustained decline in unrestricted general fund balance, contraction of the local economy, a material increase in our leverage, and for those that don't know what leverage means, it's our outstanding debt, continued increases in our capital plan, which means that continued underfunding and deferral of capital projects could have a negative impact on the county's rating or ability to fund projects through debt issuance in the future. We do expect to sell our $15.1 million GO bond on May the 23rd, and we expect to close on June the 6th. And that's everything that I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other staff comments? With that, we'll open it up to citizens' participation. Any citizens that would like to make a presentation this morning?
Two of them each? Okay. Oh, gotcha.
Good morning. I'm Beth Harvey, the current president of the Women's Commission. We're here this morning to provide you an update on the ongoing work of the commission.
And good morning, I'm Cherie McCord, and it's with great pleasure and enthusiasm that I stand before you, or sit, today as a representative of the Washington County Commission for Women. We want to take this opportunity and come together to provide an update on the work of the commission from the past year, celebrate our achievements, and outline our exciting plans for the future. First and foremost, I want to express our deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for your unwavering support and dedication to the betterment of women in our county. Your commitment has enabled us to accomplish incredible milestones and uplift countless lives. With the budget considerations before you today, we also want to thank you for fully funding the Commission for Women and for the individual contributions many of you have made to support our community outreach efforts too. Looking back at the previous year, we take immense pride in the strides we have made in 3 key areas: financial literacy for women in recovery from substance abuse and addiction, bringing the first TEDx event to Washington County for TEDx Hagerstown Women, and celebrating our 35th anniversary. The Commission for Women completed both a spring and fall series of financial literacy classes for women in residential recovery from substance abuse and addiction at Brooks House. The goal of the 7-week class was to empower women in recovery to make healthy financial decisions by increasing knowledge in basic money management, introduce the process of preparing a personal budget and spending plan, credit card health, and setting financial goals. We also covered resume writing and career development training to help participants continue financial planning after they graduate from residential recovery. The course was designed to create a safe and welcoming environment for all participants. It was based on the Building Financial Wellness, which was developed by the University of Illinois at Chicago Center on Mental Health Services and Research Policy. Each class was facilitated by Courtney Beaver, a financial planner and owner of Sky Financial Solutions, and Barbara Martin, life coach and owner of Women in Transition. On the final day of the class, women completed the program were awarded certificates of completion by Brenda Cham at the ceremony at Brooks House. These classes were made possible by support from the Western Maryland Consortium, Middletown Valley Bank, Chick-fil-A of Hagerstown, and Jersey Mike's Subs. By equipping these women with essential financial skills, we have empowered them to reclaim control over their lives and create a solid foundation for their futures. I have with me today copies of each report describing the outcomes from each class. The reports include a complete qualitative and quantitative data analysis from the pre-test and the post-test, a link to view the photos from the class, results from the course evaluation, and recommendations for how we can improve from the course. Another standout event that filled us with immense pride was the TEDx Hagerstown Women's event. With the support of the Hagerstown Community College, the inaugural event made history as the first TED event in Western Maryland. The Commission for Women was proud to be a community partner with the independent TEDx planning team. 2 members of the commission were selected as speakers at TEDx Hagerstown Women, Nitsa Alice Rivera and Amber Mowry. The unique ideas they brought to the stage are available to watch online at TEDx.com. Many members of the commission also served on the volunteer team. It is with great pleasure that I announce our unwavering support for the 2nd annual TEDx Hagerstown Women's event, which returns to Washington County October 13th, 2023, to bring leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers across the tri-state area for an inspiring half-day event that will again be held at HCC. This globally recognized event brings a platform for women and girls in Washington County and our surrounding region to share stories and inspire the community around them. This also fulfills our charter to celebrate the accomplishments of women in Washington County. TEDx Hagerstown Women will showcase a diverse representation of inspiring women who will undoubtedly leave an undeniable impact on all who attend. Audience applications will be available in the summer, so in addition to following Washington County Commission for Women on social media, be sure to like and follow TEDx Hagerstown Women and stay engaged.
Additionally, our 35 for 35 campaign exemplified our commitment to highlighting the achievements of 35 exceptional dreamers, doers, and encouragers in Washington County. These women, whose stories we shared through various platforms, continue to inspire us and serve as beacons of hope and empowerment. I encourage each of you to visit our Commission's website before the end of June to read the remarkable journeys. With the support of a local videographer, the Commission created a highlight video to archive the celebratory 35th anniversary of our charter in Washington County. As we embark on the new year, we remain steadfast in our commitment to advocating for and supporting the women of Washington County. Our primary focus this year will be the development of a comprehensive electronic resource library. This invaluable tool will serve as a beacon of support, guiding women to the various resources available within our community. We firmly believe that by consolidating and centralizing these resources, we can empower women to overcome challenges and flourish in aspects of their lives. However, we cannot achieve this without the active participation and engagement of our leaders and community. We encourage questions that we can help answer, as well as the public to share any valuable resources you may know of by submitting them through our various communication channels, including Facebook at Washington County Commission for Women, by email wccwmd@gmail.com, or through our website wccwmd.com. Your contributions will be instrumental in ensuring that our resource library becomes a comprehensive and transformative tool for women in our county. As we collect and compile valuable and necessary resources, we can identify gaps and will provide updates to you where services to support women and girls in Washington County are needed. In conclusion, I want to express our appreciation to Commissioner Randy Wagner, who's the ad hoc member of the Women's Commission. His ongoing support has strengthened the Commission for Women. The members of the Commission are humble and grateful to be appointed as your advisory body on issues affecting women in Washington County. We remain dedicated to our community. Together, we have the power to create lasting change, foster an environment where every woman can thrive, succeed, and make her mark on the world. Our monthly meetings are open to the public, and we encourage participation. In addition to the business of the Commission, we've welcomed speakers such as Delegate Grossman, CASA, representatives from the Women's Giving Circle, published authors, to help identify community partners and stir discussion that will identify the gaps in service and return to you with recommendations to better support and shape the future of women in Washington County. We look forward to continuing to support the Board of County Commissioners to empower women, celebrate the diversity in our county, and advocate on behalf of women in their roles as homemakers, wives, and professionals. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys do a wonderful job, by the way, and with a wife, 3 daughters, and 3 granddaughters, I get along fabulously with you. Y'all keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Other citizens' participation this morning?
My name's Elena Earp. I'm on the fence about homeschooling my soon-to-be kindergartner at Cascade for a few reasons, but the primary reason is because I feel, and I am not alone, the schools are not adequately staffed with armed security. Our schools are soft targets, and without armed security on school grounds at all times, the children and staff are not safe. Yeah. There are 10 SROs to 46 schools, 4 with the county, 6 with the city, 2 of which I'm told are vacant. I've also been told that any law enforcement can respond to any school, but the ETA will not be fast enough for the outlier schools. Everyone knows how fast things can happen. Superintendent Sovon told me about the Safe School Advisory Committee. I've applied. Senator Paul Quarterman told me funding would need to come from the county commissioners. I've emailed you all pleading my case. One of you told me I needed to contact the school board, so I have. Why is there a price tag on our children's safety? Although I support our great teachers in Washington County Public School for raises, we should take a look at making our schools safer and allocate funding for SROs first. Why is this such an uphill battle? Staffing shortage and lack of funding should be no excuse why our children's safety is not first, and there should be no reason the schools do not have armed security at all times. As a community, I feel we need to do better for our children and all staff in schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Earp. Anyone else would like to participate in the citizens' comments? Hearing none, we'll move right along into the proclamation for National Police Week. Sheriff, are you coming up? Your folks. You have comments you want to make before we make the presentation?
I'm Sheriff Albert from Washington County. The Honor Guard's here to present. This is National Police Week. You know, tomorrow, Father Steve McCarty has a very nice ceremony in Clear Spring for all the fallen officers that we have from Washington County over the years. There have been numerous, unfortunately. A lot of, there's police in D.C. from all over the world this week celebrating and remembering. So I just thought it was appropriate for us to recognize our fallen officers from everywhere, and especially from Washington County. So.
Mark, anyone? Comments? Gentlemen?
He's a little shy.
He's a little shy.
Right in the middle. Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, this is National Police Week, May 14th through May 20th. I'll leave out the whereas. In 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Day and the calendar week in which May 15th falls. As National Police Week established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. The public safety officers of Washington County stand watch over our citizens, selfishly risking their lives to protect individuals, families, neighborhoods, and property against crimes. And whereas May 15th is observed nationally as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. The public safety officers of Washington County, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered dedicated service to our community. We, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, do hereby recognize May 14th through May 20th, 2023 as National Police Week, and we encourage all citizens to take the time to appreciate our public safety officers and honor all those officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. Signed this 16th day of May 2023.
Thank you.
I'm going to get the commissioner with all the pictures with all the commissioners. Yeah, let's go.
You give time to sheriff, they can't cut you out.
Okay, everyone ready? 1, 2, 3. Great, thank you very much.
Look how he holds his pinky up. Oh, jeez.
He's got his film in there.
Are you from?
I'm done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, kids, I said.
Next item is approval of modified charges, rentals, and fees at the Hagerstown Regional Airport for FY 2024. Good morning, Neil. And Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Neil Doran, Airport Director.
Michelle Gordon, Chief Financial Officer. The Board of County Commissioners conducted a public hearing on April the 25th, 2023, and heard public testimony, if any, concerning the proposed modification of charges, rentals, and fees of the Hagerstown Regional Airport for fiscal year 2024. An approximately 3% increase in T-hangar rental charges is necessary to maintain compliance with fair market value, grant assurance required by the FAA, as well as aging facilities and operations. Additionally, increases in parking and landing fees are necessary to maintain fee and rental structure for the facilities and services at the Hagerstown Regional Airport, which will make the airport as self-sustaining as possible. Based on the proposed rate schedule, approximately $14,470 in revenue will be generated from T-hangar rental charges, $2,500 in revenue from aircraft parking fees, and $20,770 in revenue from landing fees for transients. At this point, I need a motion to adopt the proposed rates and charges for fiscal year 2024 for the airport.
Just as clarification for right now, I know you just said it a second time, but in the RF it says increase in parking and landing fee. That's parking for aircraft, correct?
Yes,
That's correct.
Not parking for visitors at this point.
correct, yeah.
Okay.
This is aircraft parking.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, 5-0. Okay, thank you. Next up is approval of water and sewer rates. Mark Bradshaw and Michelle Gordon.
Michelle Gordon, Chief Financial Officer.
Mark Bradshaw, Director of Environmental Management.
The Board of County Commissioners conducted a public hearing on April the 25th, 2023, and heard public testimony, if any, concerning the proposed modification of water and sewer rates. Water and sewer revenue requirements show that an increase in water rates is necessary to facilitate the Department of Water Quality's long-range financial plans. At this time, an increase in sewer rates is not necessary. The presented rate schedule for fiscal year 2024 is based on those long-range plans. Rate changes project revenue impact of $26,400 for the Water Quality Fund. At this point, I need a motion to adopt the proposed water and sewer rate schedule for fiscal year 2024.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay, motion and second on the floor to adopt as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is approval of FY 2024 operating and capital budgets. Michelle Gordon.
Michelle Gordon, Chief Financial Officer. The Board of County Commissioners conducted a public budget and tax rate hearing on May the 9th at 6 p.m. and heard public testimony on the proposed fiscal year 2024 operating and capital budgets. The fiscal year 2024 budget process has been a collaborative effort where the Office of Budget and Finance worked alongside departments, the administration, and the Board of County Commissioners. The fiscal year 2024 final proposed budget increased by 3.97% or $15.2 million over fiscal year 2023 and provides increased funding for education, to transition EMS services to county operations, to provide additional funding to outside organizations that provide additional services to our citizens, as well as adding funds to our capital plan to meet county's infrastructure needs. No changes to either the real estate tax rate or income tax rates are proposed, and at this point, I need a motion to adopt the proposed budget for fiscal year 2024 for both operating and capital budgets as presented.
Michelle, has anything changed in the forecast in the next 2 years from your projections?
Not from my original projections. I do want to point out that, within the next 2 years, we could potentially be entering into an economic recession.
I mean, we're, following up on some of them early conversations, you know, we're in an uncharted territory. You know, I'm trying to be cautious with this, you know, with the debt ceiling being reached and the government potential, never been happened before. If it does fail and we can't come to resolution, the outcome from that could be devastating to even comes back to us on our money. Would you agree?
I agree.
And it's if the government can't pay their obligations, it's going to affect us. And I know I'm reading into this a little bit, but I've never seen it quite this bad, and we've traveled into this uncharted territory, in my opinion. You know, and after, you know, it's tough. I mean, this is only my 5th budget cycle. You know, I know, you know, I really appreciate everybody that's communicated to me, but, you know, in my situation, in this case, I'm going to have to follow the advice. With you predicting a $10 million deficit, okay, if you're wrong and it's only $6 million, that's still $6 million. I mean, we had a problem when it was $4 million, a big problem. So I'm going to have to, me personally, I'm going to have to follow the advice of the staff and the CFO. I'm not an accountant. I don't have a master's. I got to follow somebody's advice. So with that being said, I'd motion to approve the budget.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion second. Any further discussion?
You're looking at me, Michelle. I have several questions, if I may. And I appreciate everyone who came out to our public budget hearing last week. According to my notes, 31 people spoke. I think that's right. And, you know, everyone has something that they're passionate about, that they care about. Commissioners included. And I think we run a campaign based on us telling our citizens what we think is important. We do have many important needs, and I think we'll always have important needs with finite resources, and that's the role of a commissioner, is to advocate for why citizens put us in this seat. I look at our budget, and year after year, it's been quite frustrating, and I don't place blame on anyone, county staff who's been part of that. But what's been frustrating is where our issue lies. I'm confident in the tax decreases I voted for and not have voted for tax increases, and I think our budgets, our actual revenues have supported that. I look at, Michelle, you gave us a March 2023 quarterly report. And year to date, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and so that our citizens understand, our fiscal year runs July 1st to June 30th. So when we are presented with March budget numbers, that's our 3rd quarter of our fiscal year. So 9 out of the 12 months that we've completed so far. And I'm just looking at, we budgeted real estate tax revenue at $122 million. We're above budget $4 million. We budgeted personal property tax at $13 million. We're above $4.1 million. We budgeted income tax at $63.6 million. We're above $6.7 million. We budgeted recordation tax at $5 million. We're above $2.4 million. We budgeted residential excise tax at $407,000. We're above budget $630,000. And we budgeted transfer tax at $1.7 million, $1.8 million. We're above budget $1.1 million. Those are big numbers, and I do not expect us to ever be on budget. We're quite frankly extremely close. I think a budget is just an expectation of where our revenues will be, but this so far is almost rounded up tens of millions of dollars over what we budgeted, what we had forecasted. And you add that onto the last several years of being tens of millions of dollars and revenue coming in over what we forecasted, that COVID funding relief is largely separate, but when we reconcile our budget then at the end of the year, we don't have that same conversation that we've had with our regular budgeting cycle in spending that money, or how we spend it, or how we save it. I think our issue isn't our tax rate is too low. Our issue is we need to budget better. The fact of the matter is our revenues are growing without changing the tax rate because what we tax is worth more. I'm sorry. What we are taxing is worth more. We can keep that same tax rate. But property values are assessed higher. Incomes are higher. And in our economy, we have ebbs and flows. We are likely on the heels of a recession. But my mind does not tell me, and I know we're not here to discuss a tax increase. My mind does not tell me that we exponentially increase our spending on the heels of a recession. During a recession, our citizens will be expected to spend less. I don't understand why we wouldn't expect our government, our local Washington County government wouldn't dig us out of a nationwide recession. I listened to what you said in our bond rating. I think we had a very favorable bond rating. And one of the items that you mentioned as to why we had that bond rating was our ability to raise taxes or increase revenues necessary. You know, I referred to it a couple years ago. If you max out what the state of Maryland allows us to have as an income tax rate to 3.2%, that's maxing out the credit card. I was criticized for that, but my analogy is that if you as a consumer have maxed out your personal debt and lines of credit that you have available to you, that doesn't put you in a good situation. If you need it to increase your revenues or increase your spending. It mentioned strong revenues. I think we have strong revenues. I don't think we will always have strong revenues if we're headed into a recession. Again, our economy ebbs and flows. There are some things I would like to fund in our budget that aren't included. I think the young mother who spoke, I have a daughter around her age, and school safety is something that's important to me. I think we could increase funding for school safety, take that burden on as the county. I think our Commission on Aging, whether you want to call it a large increase or not, but the fact of the matter is we're cutting funding to the Commission on Aging. In the fall of last year, when we took surplus money and provided for a program that expanded a program that they wanted to offer, Meals on Wheels, they were very upfront with us in their presentation that mentioned hiring additional staff members. And if we don't continue that, that is a cut to seniors. That is cutting funding to seniors. And I think that I mentioned how our budget, I opened up with our third quarter results coming in above budget, time and again. I wonder if we are not underestimating our revenues. And I have a concern about that because when we do underestimate our revenues to that degree, we don't have that serious conversation that we have during a regular budget cycle on how to spend that. And we're talking about tens of millions of dollars. That concerns me.
I think Michelle wanted to respond first.
I just want to point out that the years that we had excess of revenues over expenditures were during the pandemic. Our normal excess of revenues over expenditures is $5 to $10 million, and you need that normal increase every year because as your revenues increase, as your expenditures increase, your required reserves increase. So that increase covers the amount that we're required to maintain as part of our financial policy and our reserves. It's also something that the rating agencies look at very closely to make sure that we are budgeting for that increase in reserve requirements as our base grows for revenues and for expenditures. During the pandemic, virtually every city, county, and state government agency in the United States had the same problems that we had trying to predict what the impact would be of that federal stimulus money on the local economy. We are not the only ones who had enormous excess of revenues or expenditures during those fiscal years. The excess that's being predicted for the current fiscal year is about $17 million. So we're getting close to our normal of $5 to $10 million. I don't think it's anything that staff did wrong. In fact, they did an incredible job trying to predict what that impact would be on our revenues during that unprecedented time during the, history of the United States, during the history of budgeting. I mean, the last time we had a pandemic was, 1918? So staff did the best thing that they could do to predict what the impact that would have on the revenues that we were going to receive, and God forbid, that had gone the other way. If we had not had that influx of federal funding into the local economy, we probably would be having a very different discussion right now, because revenues probably would have been very much under what we had estimated. So they did a great job trying to predict what it would be during a very uncertain time.
Let me just say, Michelle, I mentioned early on that I do not fault staff for that. You weren't here when the pandemic started. I think you were CFO somewhere else. And I'm sure you probably had those same conversations that we had. Oh my goodness, what is that going to do to our budget? We had conversations about many things, and I think we took a very cautious approach, kind of a wait and see. We froze up a little bit on our spending. I think many of our organizations that come in and ask for funding, outside agencies or departments, were more like, don't cut our budget, flat fund us and we'll be okay. And we were able to muster through that. I don't fault staff when I say that, but what I'm saying is it's very difficult, and it's unfair, I think, when we have surpluses, and you can call it whatever you want, but when our budget revenues are greater than, when our actual revenues are greater than our budget, it's a surplus. We don't have the same degree of conversation about how that money is spent. And that's still taxpayer dollars. And whether it's $1 or $100,000 that someone pays in taxes, it deserves due course. That's our fault, not yours.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think that it's a trend that I've seen over the last several years. So my concern is our revenues are coming in much higher than what they're being projected.
That gap is closing. That gap is closing, and that's pointed out by the fact that this, we're not going to have a $40 million excess this year. It's $17 million, still higher than our normal, but much closer to our normal of $5 to $10 million. So that gap is closing. We're getting back into normal years of budgeting. We're also expecting a recession potentially in the future. Washington County also has a significant amount of economic and residential growth occurring in the county. So the recession may not hit us as hard as it will in other parts of Maryland, for example, central Maryland or eastern Maryland, but a recession is coming, and we're getting back into the normal historical trends for estimating our revenues at this point. We also have financial policy in place that says when we do have an excess of revenues over expenditures, it can only be used for certain things. Ongoing operating expenditures is one thing that it's prohibited from being used for.
Where did the funding come from for the 9.5% employee pay increase?
That came from projected increases in revenues for the current fiscal year.
Projected surplus, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
that kind of counters that argument.
if I may, Mr. President.
Certainly.
So what I learned at the budget process training classes at MACO, which is the Maryland Association of Counties, is that your budget director is doing a great job if they're within 5 to 7.5% of projected revenues. And so you've done great in that regard. Bottom line is, even with this budget overage, which is very small and within the margin of what MACO says, year over year, we don't have the same buying power as the previous year. Actual buying power, it's less. That's a bottom line. So it's a myth that we have more money, because the increase in assessments on property taxes or some of these other things are not keeping up with those inflation rates and the assessments. And even right now, permits, sales, all of those things have crashed in our county. So there are significant indicators already that we're on a downward slope in those areas. We just borrowed $15 million, we approved it, which sort of eats into whatever overage there is. That's how I look at it. I know it's counterintuitive, as we've talked. We have an underfunded pension thing, pension ratio, which is what I forgot to mention. So there's either two things you do when you try to provide for the schools or other things. You make cuts in one area, and I don't hear where those cuts should come from, because the things that are being funded, you don't want to cut roads, you don't want to cut bridges, you don't want to cut Humane Society, you don't want to cut this, you don't want to cut that. So the other option is some revenue generation, and $13 million this year, $13 million this coming year, $13 million or more the following year is $39 million that we have set aside that we're not going to get. And a good chunk of that is in disparity grants. So I'm a fiscal conservative. We got to make it work. I've done it my whole life. But we're not doing it here with cuts. Cuts, recommendations for cuts. We're not doing revenue enhancements, so we have to make this fit. I think we have a motion on the floor. I think we need to move forward, Mr. President.
Okay. Any other comments? We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the budget as stated.
One more comment. Would there be any support for looking at adjusting either revenues, projections based on recent years' history? Could there be any support? I know John Martirano and myself, Michelle, had a conversation a couple weeks ago. Michelle, you said you would be comfortable raising our salary savings, turnover savings, different organizations call it different things, from 1 to 1.5 million, because our history showed 2.5 million. For those listening, for fellow commissioners, that was something that we had not budgeted for in the past. Commissioner Burke actually brought that to us as an idea because the Board of Ed budgets for turnover savings.
That's not part of the motion. That's something we can discuss later. I call for the vote.
Is that, are we still in discussion time or not?
He just called for the vote.
So I was asked to find a place to cut. That doesn't cut a program that actually better accounts for a savings in our budget that exists.
That can be discussed later.
To fund the Commissioner on Aging's request for $500,000.
You called for it. Let's take the vote.
Vote.
Yep. I vote aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Okay.
Is that 3-2?
3-2.
3-2, thank you.
Okay. Next item is the Emergency Management Performance Grant approval to submit application and accept awarded funding.
Good morning. Nicole Phillips, Grant Manager, Office of Grant Management.
Cody Swope, the Emergency Management Specialist.
We are here today for a motion to approve the submission of the application to the Maryland Department of Emergency Management in the amount of $102,925.49 and to accept funding as awarded. The purpose of the Emergency Management Performance Grant Program is to provide federal funds to states to assist state, local, tribal, and territorial emergency management agencies to obtain the resources required to support the national preparedness goals associated with the areas and core capabilities. The awarded funds from this grant will completely fund the emergency management planner position, the county's mass notification system, and allow for emergency management personnel to participate in training programs. There is a 100% match requirement associated with this grant, but it is covered by the Director of Emergency Management wages and benefits. So the matching funds will be in the form of budgeted salaries based upon the approval of the FY24 budget.
Discussion? Motion?
Motion to approve submission of the application to Maryland Department of Energy Management in the amount of $102,925.49 and accept funding as awarded.
Second.
Motion is second for approval. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, 5-0. Next item is State Homeland Security Grant Program approval to submit grant application and to accept awarded funding.
Nicole Phillips, Grant Manager, Office of Grant Management.
Katie Swope, Emergency Management Specialist.
We are here today for a motion to approve the submission of the FY23 State Homeland Security Grant to the Maryland Department of Emergency Management in the amount of $202,602.08 and accept funding as awarded. The State Homeland Security Grant Program is administered by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and passes through the State Emergency Management Agency to be distributed to local jurisdictions. The program is intended to enhance and maintain current Homeland Security initiatives as they pertain to prevention, preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation. The grant will pay for partial salary for the emergency management specialist, the cost of a part-time position within the Washington County Sheriff's Office for incident management team coordination and projects, and other costs which will include training, equipment, public outreach, and response capabilities. There are no matching funds associated with this grant. However, at least 35% of the grant funds must be spent on law enforcement-related tasks or equipment.
Motion?
Move to approve submission of fiscal year 23 State Homeland Security Grant, Maryland Department of Emergency Management, in the amount of $202,602.08, and accept funding as awarded.
Second.
All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is intent to convey real property. Morning, Todd.
Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Moser, Real Property Administrator, Division of Engineering. Move to adopt the ordinance declaring property consisting of .11 acres situated on the west side of Artisan Street in Williamsport as surplus, and approve the conveyance of the same and authorize the execution of the necessary documentation to finalize the conveyance for $5,000. Notice of the county's intent to convey the property was duly advertised on April 24th, April 24th, May 1st, May 8th, 2023. Staff is ready to transfer the property. The adjoining property owner, Williams Storage Bins, INC, approached the county about acquiring the property. Property records indicate the state conveyed the property to the county as part of Artisan Street conveyance. There are no future plans for the property. An easement would be reserved over the existing macadam portion of the property for county vehicles to have the ability to turn around at the end of the road for maintenance along Artisan Street.
I move to adopt the ordinance declaring the property and the acreage at Artisan Street and to transfer it as surplus.
Second.
Motion and second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is contract award purchase 1481, task order 6, Washington County Agricultural Education Center indoor multipurpose building commissioning services.
Good morning, Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works.
Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing. Subject before you is contract award PUR 1481 Task Order 16, Washington County Agriculture Education Center indoor multipurpose building commissioning services. Move to award a contract for the Agriculture Education Center indoor multi-purpose building commissioning services to the lowest responsive bidder, Kybart, a Bowman Company LLC of Towson, Maryland, who submitted the total sum bid of $81,850. I will now turn it over to Andrew to continue.
Thank you. So you may recall on March 7th, the commissioners approved the design contract for the building. The commissioning process is something that runs parallel to that. The agent is a third-party representative of the county, and they provide integrated design review during the course of that design project, as well as the shop drawing review, testing, training, and operation and maintenance, all the way through the building commissioning and turning over to the county. And the reason for that, one is the lead design standards as well as just supporting the county because we're looking at on-site water and sewer facilities and utilities and things like that. And it's certainly important to reap the benefits from this process to minimize the on-site cost investment for water and sewer as well as ongoing costs there. Any questions?
Just to confirm, Andrew, Rick, this is the building that's being proposed that ARPA funding is being used for?
Correct.
Okay.
I'd motion to move to award the contract of the Ag Education Center indoor multipurpose building to Kybert and Bowman Company LLC of Towson, Maryland for the amount of $81,850.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor for approval. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next item is intergovernmental cooperative purchase, 23-0119, one new 2022 Ford F-350 pickup truck. Good morning, Rick.
Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Mark Bradshaw, Director of Environmental Management.
The subject is intergovernmental cooperative purchase, INTG 23-0119, for one new 2022 Ford F-350 pickup truck. Move to authorize a resolution for the Department of Water Quality to purchase one Ford F-350 Super Duty XL regular cab pickup truck with a utility body from Apple Ford Lincoln Mercury of Cumberland, Maryland, for a total cost of $57,969, and to utilize another jurisdiction's contract that was awarded by Baltimore County, Maryland, contract number 0004504 to Apple Ford Lincoln Mercury. The Code of Public Law does allow for this board to participate in procurements of services and goods that was awarded by another jurisdiction. The benefit of that is that we would save money as far as the administrative costs of writing a specification and going through the bidding process. You can see that their funds are budgeted for this vehicle, and there's a price quote sheet attached in the resolution. Any questions?
Rick, is there a reason for a 350 versus a 250 or?
This will be for our collection department. They haul grinder pumps and they carry a lot of tools because they're part of our field crew to handle the collection system. And it's mainly for the weight because they carry replacement pumps on their trucks with them at all times. And it's replacing a Chevy pickup that has since lost the transmission out of it.
Does this replace a vehicle, or is this just an additional truck?
It will replace a 1999 Chevy pickup truck that the transmission went out of. That I think new transmissions around $3,500 to $4,000 for it.
What are we doing with that truck?
We will dispose of it on Gov Deals here very shortly.
Okay.
I motion to approve the purchase.
Second.
Motion second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next item is rejection of bids, PUR 1610, grinder pump packages for Department of Water Quality.
Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing again.
Mark Bradshaw, Director of Environmental Management.
Subject is rejection of bids for PUR 1610 grinder pump packages for Department of Water Quality. Move to take action which is in the best interest of the county to reject all the bids without prejudice for the grinder pump packages due to the bid specifications need revised. We're also requesting permission to re-advertise to solicit new pricing. As you can see, the bid was advertised as we normally do on the various websites, and there is no fiscal impact if the bid is rejected. Questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I guess that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is sole source procurement, PUR 1622 for Western Maryland Consortium, Disconnected Youth Services in Washington County, Maryland.
Rick Curry again, Director of Purchasing.
Excuse me, Nicole Phillips, Grant Manager, Office of Grant Management.
This subject is a sole source procurement award, PUR 1622, for Western Maryland Consortium, Disconnected Youth Services in Washington County, Maryland. Motion to approve a sole source procurement to Western Maryland Consortium in an amount of $50,687 for enhancement to existing programming offered to disconnected youth contingent upon approval of the funding award from the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth, and Victim Services, as approved by the Washington County Local Management Board at its January 20th, 2023 meeting. The purpose of service is to fulfill the requirements contained in the Community Partnership Agreement to be entered into and dated on or about July 1st, 2023, by and between the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, and the State of Maryland, acting through the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth, and Victim Services, which in turn is acting through Washington County's Office of Grant Management. The contract is a one-year contract to begin July 1st, 2023, ending June 30th of 24, with an option by the board for 2 additional consecutive one-year periods through 2026. And the board wishes, Management Board wishes to apply sections 1-106.2A1 of the Code of Public Laws, which states only one source exists that meets the county's requirements. If this request requires the approval of 4 of the 5 commissioners in order to proceed with the sole source procurement. If approved, the following remaining steps of the process will occur as outlined by law. Not more than 10 days after execution and approval of the contract under this section, the procurement agency shall publish a notice of award in a newspaper in general circulation in the county. An appropriate record of the sole source procurement shall be maintained. Fiscal impact is $50,687 with no county funding requested. Are there any questions?
Motion approved.
Motion, we have a second?
I second.
Okay, motion and second to approve. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next item is sole source procurement award, PUR 1624, school-based health centers.
Again, Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Nicole Phillips, Grant Manager, Office of Grant Management.
This subject is sole source procurement award, PUR 1624, school-based health centers. Move to award a sole source procurement to Meritus Medical Centers in an amount of $254,194 for operating expenses for school-based health centers operated at Western Maryland Middle School and South Hagerstown High School. The purpose of the service to be provided is to fulfill the requirements contained in a grant agreement to be entered into and dated on or about July 1st, 2023, by and between the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, and the State of Maryland, acting through the Maryland State Department of Health, which in turn is acting through the Washington County Office of Grant Management. The contract is a one-year contract commencing on July 1st, 2023, ending on June 30th, 2024, with option by the board for 2 consecutive renewals ending in 2026. Grant Management wishes to apply Section 1-106.2A1 Code of Public Laws of Washington County, Maryland, which states that only one source exists that meets the county's requirements. This request requires approval of 4 of the 5 commissioners in order to proceed with the sole source. If approved, the following remaining steps of the process will occur as outlined by law. Not more than 10 days after the execution and approval of the contract under this section, the procurement agency shall publish notice of award in a newspaper of general circulation in the county, and appropriate records shall be maintained. Funding is $254,194 with no county funding. Are there any questions?
Questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion is second on the floor for approval. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll accept the motion to go into closed session as,
Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
okay,
Take a 5-minute break?
yes.
Aye.